I'm Jim Williams. I'm a ham radio operator, a CERT instructor, and an EMT. Since 2012, friends and neighbors and I have been trying to answer the following question: how will I manage during an emergency or a disaster? We've been asking in the community dozens and dozens, and we've categorized their answers into 5 general attitudes. The first is this: nothing bad can ever happen, and if it does, the government will take care of me. We call this the Hurricane Katrina response. Next is bad things happen, but always to somebody else and somewhere else. We call this the Paradise Fire response. Third, and sadly, the response is, I'll just die. Now, when I hear this, I have to ask them, if they're serious, do they want first responders to waste their time trying to help them when someone else may need their help first? And if the answer is yes, I don't want them to help me, then they ought to put a placard on the front of their door, nail it to the front that says, I am dying, don't bother me. The next is bad things happen. I need to get ready. This response and this attitude are folks who understand that they need to prepare themselves, and preparation starts with knowledge. There are a lot of resources: FEMA, state, city, county, Red Cross. Our recommendation, and what we use as our guidebook, is the Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness for the Family by Arthur T. Bradley, PhD. It's $25 on Amazon. I buy them on eBay for about half that price. And the last attitude and last response is, I'm ready. What does that mean? It means that the family has the 5 emergency preparedness basics: water, shelter, food, security, and communications. These 5 basics are the subject of our subsequent classes. The subject is water in emergencies and hydration. The instructional objectives for this course is that you will be able to be familiar and answer questions about hydration, sanitation and hygiene, storage, sources, and how to make water safe. I'll be asking a series of questions as we move along, and the first of those is, how much water should you have on hand? You may have heard the 3-3-3 rule, which is 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and most people will not survive. But even after 2 days, we become incapacitated and diminished in our capabilities. In emergency medicine school, I learned that most people are, as a rule, already dehydrated. So adding the dehydration that could come from having an absence of a ready source of water could be very, very difficult, even those who have water for 3 days. The basic rule is 1 gallon per person per day. Some recommend 2 gallons. How much water should I keep on hand? FEMA is now recommending 2 weeks. It used to be 3 days. Now, how do you store water? We'll be talking about that, but for example, a case of water weighs 3.6 to 4.2 gallons. The Costco 40 bottle bricks have 5.28 gallons, meaning that you can calculate how much water you need if you plan to store bottled water, and you can also decide where to put it. A lot of my neighbors put it under their beds. Here's a question for you. What is the price of 1 gallon of water? Better, what would you pay for that same water at the end of 2 days? A recommendation we have is that you keep how much water to yourself. Don't broadcast any of your resources. Otherwise, you may find people coming to your house and asking, or worse, demanding your water. Let's consider transportation. Water weighs 8.35 pounds per gallon. That means a 5-gallon container weighs 41 pounds. Now, if you're going to be moving water around, can you carry 5 gallons, or can you carry just 1 gallon? What if you have to evacuate? How much water can you put in your go bag? So portability is a key preparation for all of us. In terms of containers, we should have enough containers that we can have in our go bag and enough containers that we can also have in our vehicles if vehicles are able to be used. The next subject that we want to discuss is sanitation and hygiene. Here's the question. If drinking water is the first priority, what should be next? Consider that during a power down situation that is lengthy, availability of water to flush toilets, to wash dishes, is going to be very, very reduced. We have to be certain that we're using the water that is potable water that we can drink for the critical aspects of drinking, and if we have to use it for wound washing, for example. There is non-potable water available. Some people have it in their pools or spas. Some people have it in their gray water reservoir that they save to water the plants outside with. But keep this in mind, during a power down emergency situation, it's going to be a dirtier environment. We'll have to wash our hands more often. We've recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, gotten more used to washing our hands a lot, but it's going to be at least that much during a power down, dirty, earthquake, tsunami kind of environment. Here's one thing that I recommend everyone memorize: how to make sanitizer from bleach. 1 part bleach, 9 parts water is an adequate sanitizer for washing surfaces and for cleaning. Well, how do I wash my hands and how do I stay clean during an environment? If I have only enough water, if I have, for example, only 1 gallon for drinking per day, this is a difficult problem. My recommendation is that we sacrifice 1 gallon for washing hands, 1 gallon for rinsing hands out of our stock. That means we have to add that to our storage of water. The simple 2-pail hand washing method is what we recommend. That is a wash pail with sanitizer and a tablespoon of dish soap. You wash your hands in that. And then you have a rinse pail with plain water, and you shake your hands dry. When the wash and rinse become dirty, it could be a few days or even a week, then we recommend that you use that to flush the toilet. Our next subject is storage. Let's talk about metal cans. Years ago when I was in the Army, we had what we called Jerry water cans. These were metal cans that were lined with some kind of plastic. The water tasted awful, and inevitably over time it became rusty. Metal cans are not a good option for storing water. How about if I know the power is going to go down and the water is going to be shut off, could I use pots and pans? Of course. Anything close at hand that is able to store water and where the water will not become contaminated is suitable. 2 good ideas, or a good idea, is to have a bathtub liner. I don't recommend filling the bathtub and drinking from the bathtub directly, but you can purchase a couple of different products. One's called an Aquapod and another's called a water bob. Both of those are available on eBay or on Amazon, and they're about $35, and they're reusable. So you can store between 65 and 100 gallons of water if you know the power is going to go down and there's a high probability that the water is going to be turned off. How about plastic containers? The rule is look for plastic containers that are non-BPA. BPA is bisphenol A. It's a chemical that's used for making plastic. If your water containers have a non-BPA symbol on it or on the bottom, like this Nalgene bottle or these food grade 3-gallon containers, then you're just fine. But look for non-BPA. Also, look for the recycle triangle. It's a recycle triangle, and it will say 1, 2, 4, or 5 inside. 1, 2, 4, or 5. That means those are human consumable approved. How about what kind of plastic is okay for storage? Blue water barrels. Here's a picture of a 155-gallon blue water barrel rack that are linked together, suitable for storing for a long time. They need to be stacked off the floor. They need to be stacked in a cradle, not on end. It needs to be out of the sun and in a cool place. Ask me how I know that you shouldn't stack 55-gallon water barrels end on end. How about store-bought? You can buy water in gallons, you can buy water in bricks or cases, and as I said earlier, a good place to store these bricks of water, as my neighbor who's 90 years old does, is under her beds in her house. So, question is, does water go bad? Water doesn't go bad. Water gets contaminated. Wait a minute, Jim, what about the shelf life, used before dates that I find on some of the water plastic bricks that I buy? The fact is that those are on there because the state of New Jersey required that all products sold for food or anything related to food have to have an expiration date. So because water may be sold any place, including New Jersey, everything has an expiration date on it, including water. But water doesn't go bad. It's a myth that you have to dump out all of your water every 6 months and change it out. So our next subject is sources of water. So here's a question for you. Are you okay to drink water out of your spa or out of your swimming pool? Let's begin with tap water. We're all accustomed to getting our water from the tap. Water comes from the water company where it has been filtered, purified, and treated. But during an earthquake, pipes can be compromised, which could introduce silt, dirt, contamination into our water supply. Further, if there's a power down situation, all water by state law has to be filtered at the water treatment plant. This means that this goes through a pump, and the pump pumps through the filter, but the pump is powered by electricity, which means there won't be any pump and filtration. So the duration of water available, even from the water company, could be in question during a power down situation. What about other sources? How about your water heater? You can drain the water out of the water heater, use that, it's certainly potable. You can take water out of the pipes in the house. Go to the lowest water faucet in your home with your water transport bucket and take the water from the pipes. You can take it out of water hoses. However, water hose water is generally not very palatable and questionable in terms of contaminations from plastic. Water from the top tank of the toilet is also acceptable to use. Let's talk about pools and spas. Is it okay for me to drink water out of pools and spas? No, and here's why. Water in pools and spas is full of organic material, skin cells, hair. Pool and spa filters are designed to filter out bugs and leaves, not particulates as small as those that could cause us problems with our digestion. Also, we heavily treat water in pools and spas with chlorine, for example. High concentrations of chlorine are not healthy for us to consume. So water from pools and spas can be treated and it can be used, but you have to have the proper method. We'll talk about that in our last session. How about water from streams, creeks, springs, ponds? As clear and running as the water may appear, it's probably full of lots of critters. Cryptosporidium, Shigella, Paramecium, amoeba, lots of nasty things that we don't want in our intestinal tract, which will cause us to have lots of issues, added to the fact that we don't have a lot of water for sanitation and hygiene to start with. How about distillation? Can we distill water? Sure. An easy way to distill water is using a large pot with a lid, turn the lid upside down, suspend a cup with a string in the middle so the water will condense on the lid and drip down into the cup. You can certainly distill water that way. It's a slow process and it takes a lot of fuel. If you have electrical stove, for example, then, and the power's down, then you have an issue. If you have gas, you can certainly distill, but it does require a lot of time and a lot of fuel. If you have neither of those, you can use perhaps an outside method, either a barbecue, or we taught in one class last year how to build what's called a rocket stove out of 25 bricks, and you can use twigs as a heat source to create a high temperature and distill water outside. How about water trucks? One of the ideas that is becoming more prevalent is the use of water trucks for distributing water to communities. But we have to know when and where those water trucks are going to be available. You may be thinking about the tankers that are run by fire departments. When I worked for the fire service, we had a 3,500 gallon water truck. Lots of water, but that water has been in there for a long time. The use of that water is probably not recommended without treatment. The last of our topics today is making water safe. Here's a question. What is the best way to make water safe? Let's consider water from any source. It could have particulates in it, it could have grit, it could have turbidity, meaning it's cloudy, and those are things that we can see. However, it may also have pathogens, bacteria, virus, and chemicals, things that we can't see. It's important that we're able to treat our water. And the best way to do that is filtration, purification, and treatment. The in-home strategy that we recommend is to be able to filter, purify, and treat. And here are some examples of how we can do that. I'm going to start on my left side. This is an example of a simple purification system. It uses a black Berkey water filter. They look like this. These are available for about $140 on Amazon. This is a black Berkey water filter in a water container, and we're using creek water, which I've dyed red just to show you how successfully this water purification filter works. It even filters out red food coloring, and what comes down to the bottom of the container, suitable for drinking, has been purified to 99.9999%. Here is a list of all the different things that the black Berkey filters will remove. There are other types. This is a Dalton ceramic water filter, very, very high in effectiveness as well. And those devices can be used to purify and treat your water. We recommend that you begin first by filtering. And the easiest way to filter is by using a familiar coffee filter and a strainer. So before I put the water in this device, I filtered it with the coffee filter to get the bugs and the leaves and the critters out. This is another approach. This uses a pair of big Berkey filters. These are just easily available 3-gallon water containers. You need to drill 3 holes, one for the spigot and one for the 2 Berkey filters to go through. The water to be treated goes in the top, the clean water comes out the bottom, and you get your water out of the spigot. That's a very effective way and very usable system. My son lives in a place where there is tap water, but it's questionable, so he uses this exact system to make sure all of his water is potable. This is a different approach. This is a device called a Lifesaver. It's a 5-gallon blue plastic jerry can. It works a little bit differently. In this one, you put the dirty water in here, and the clean water comes out under pressure here. So you can submerge this so the water goes in, and you can have a good potable water. So filtration, purification. And the last thing that we recommend doing is treating water. Yes, 99.9999 is a pretty good number, but there still could be some vagrant virus or pathogen in the water that we filter and we purify. So I recommend using a system of 2 drops of bleach for every quart of water, or you can use an easily purchasable on Amazon water purification tablets, or you can use the most popular purification that is used around the world, and it provides purification of water for about 1 billion people. These are called aqua tabs. They come in different sizes. They're very affordable. You can buy a box of 100 or a box of 1,000 for your garage or your go bag preparation. So this is another system. This is for home. This is portable. This is a Katadyn system. It's basically a pump. One end goes in the water source, and what comes out the other end is clear water. You pump it, and you can fill up your Nalgene bottle, for example, with that. We have an issue of how do we get all the stuff out, not just the pathogens, but also chemicals. As I said earlier, high degrees of chlorine, high concentrations of chlorine can be harmful. So filtration and purification using these systems, they remove chemicals as well. Are they a perfect solution? No, but they're pretty darn good. And we have consumed the water out of the creek with no issues whatsoever, and people with a high degree of confidence. We talked about distillation, talked about boiling. Let's say we have an order from our water department that says we have to boil our water for some reason. That's fine, but boiling kills pathogens. What it doesn't do is take out chemicals. So we recommend for everyone this kind of system. It's very affordable, $140 for the filters and the purifiers, and the spigot costs $3. The big Berkeys are available, and these, you can actually get these sometimes from your local restaurants. Just don't get them that have had anything like pickles in them because it has an odor. Make sure they're cleaned, washed thoroughly, dried, and sanitized with a sanitizing solution with bleach. And then you're ready to go. What's nice about these is that they fit one inside the other. They're very compact. You only use it when you need it. Take it out, assemble it, and you're ready to go. Here's some rules of thumb for treatment. If you're using bleach, it's 8 drops per gallon. 8 drops per gallon. If you're using iodine, it's 4 teaspoons per gallon. If you're using betadine, it's 16 drops per gallon. Those are rules of thumb, and using filtration, purification, and treatment will ensure that whatever water source you have, you're able to consume it without any issues. Thank you very much.